Was it seconds, minutes?
I would say they were just coming out of the building as I was pulling up, so it had to have just happened. The shooting they heard was coming from the back of the building, and they ran out the front to me.
Knowing that you were supposed to drop your mom off, you were minutes away, I mean.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, we could not even be here right now as a possibility. I mean, I was going to go drop her off at the front door and then park and come get her, and within minutes there was shooting at the front window that, you know, she could have been sitting right there, and has a hard time walking, so that's very scary.
Did you see anybody? Did they see anybody? Did they have any idea of who it was or what their problem was that caused them to do this?
They did not see anyone. They just heard they said 11 shots within a minute, and to show us that it was a shooter, you know, seeing those two front windows shot out, we knew that's what it was and that we had to get out of there.
Okay, Tiffany, well, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it, and thank you for being so helpful and getting those nurses out of the way. You have to be very proud of what you did.
Yeah, like I said, I wish I could do more. They told me I couldn't go back in, so.
Yeah, so that's a story from a first-hand witness that got involved and helped out and maybe even saved some more lives here this afternoon. Back to you guys. Yeah,
that's
she did a great job. Really helped out her community and helped out her friends, and hopefully saved a couple of lives here today. We're standing by outside the Buffalo Hospital for now. We'll keep you in the loop if we hear anything or hear from any hospital spokesman. We'll break in and talk to you then. Amy, back to you.
All right. Thanks, Jim. Very close to Jim. As many of you may or may not know, Jim lives in Buffalo, in the Buffalo area, so this cuts very close to Jim. We're glad to have him out there, and he did get that witness on television.
I heard
this
the
is
911 guy
just for those folks who may be joining us,
saying the gun was
mass
on the
shooting
desk
event at Alina Clinic.
and the shooter on the
right
ground.
there, you can see it. It's sort of at the intersection of 55 and 35, if you're familiar with Buffalo.
Appreciate you.
A fairly new clinic they built out there, an Alina Clinic. Late this morning, an individual walked into that clinic, and all we know is that shots rang out. The latest numbers are possibly 11 casualties, does not mean fatalities. 11 victims of this shooting may be the number. Again, very sketchy details at this hour about what may have happened and how many people may have been affected. But this is out in Buffalo. No motive, no understanding of what would have caused this. We do know that the suspect has been apprehended, taken into custody at the scene, we believe. Again, this happening around, first call came in about 11 a.m. this morning. You're seeing pictures of what the environment looked like out there in Buffalo. Those people have been taken to the Buffalo Hospital. You can see the front of the building there. Jim referenced in his interview, or the eyewitness did, those windows being shot out. You're seeing them there in the center of your screen. And that was taken from Skyfox 5 shortly after the incident occurred, as quickly as we get the chopper up and out there. And this, again, is an ongoing situation. The latest development that we have right now is that the Minneapolis bomb squad has parked their vehicle in front of that building and is clearly assessing something that has been left there, or a concern of some sort of incendiary device that may still be in that building. There was talk early on from witnesses that there may have been bombs involved. We don't know.
Scott Ward, good to see you, sir.
What we do know is that the Minneapolis bomb squad is there at this time assessing the situation, and that is essentially the most prominent thing that is happening right now outside that clinic.
Good question.
And Randy, we have the information that's of course confirmed by law enforcement, which, as you say, is not a whole lot as this story continues to develop.
The helicopter that refueled twice
and
SWAT and all those vehicles, there was no suspect there.
We have interviewed, you saw Jim Rich interviewing Tiffany, who was dropping her mom off at the time of the shooting and took those nurses into her car and drove off. We also had someone on the ground for us who was interviewing a woman who was in the clinic at the time that this happened. This woman was actually in an exam room, she said, toward the back of the clinic. And this woman said that the suspect, the man, she actually says that she saw him, and she saw him walk past her room, and he went to the front of the clinic, and she says he fired off some shots. And then she says he went down the clinic hallway and fired off maybe 2 or 3 more rounds. She was actually one of the first people to call 911. But she was also close enough to this suspect, she says, that she heard him call 911 himself. And as he was talking to the dispatcher, he said, send an ambulance. So this is the information we have from these witnesses who were there firsthand, in addition to what law enforcement is telling us at this time.
We're also getting some responses from the community and from the state level. Representative Marion O'Neill, the Republican from Maple Lake out there,
I'm not going to speculate as to the length
in the
or
Buffalo
whether
area.
it's a sidearm or a long rifle, but odds are it was a pistol.
Essentially, I'm going to paraphrase here a little bit. He says,
and there
I've been
always
in
will
contact
be,
with Wright County Sheriff Derringer and Buffalo Police Chief Budke, offering my support for anything they may need to help our community through this unimaginable tragedy. He goes on to say, my heart breaks for the victims, their families, and our community. He also says, and this is where it gets a little bit interesting in terms of
the toll,
his reference to the victims. He said, Wright County Sheriff's deputies and first responders who ran toward danger and away from it, and the medical personnel who made sure that those injured had the best care possible. My prayers are with those who are hurt as they begin the difficult road to recovery. So he's referencing only injured there and not fatalities. That means nothing, only that he knows that there were people injured in that.
Mm-hmm. And as we continue to reset, for those of you who are just joining our coverage, we want to send it back out to the scene. And our Paul Bloom, who has been on the story since the word go here. Paul, if you could just sort of reset everything for us to give those viewers at home an opportunity to get caught up.
Yeah, you did a magnificent job just kind of bringing up everybody up to speed. In the last half hour or so, we have pointed out several times the Minneapolis bomb squad on scene. What's kind of changed in the last few minutes is now some of those flashing lights. Some law enforcement have moved closer to that building. There's more activity up in that area to suggest, again, a comfort level with the scene being secured and safe for people to come back closer to the building. I do want to say, continue to text and message, call with some sources connected to this investigation. Still very early on, but as you've mentioned, the suspect in custody. My understanding is we are starting to get some workup done on this suspect at this point and understand motivations and what might have been behind what happened here. A male suspect, older male suspect, who wreaked some type of violence on this healthcare clinic for some reason.
Oh, but, no worries about last night, Scott.
The investigation into the motivation continues. Obviously, still very much concerned about the number of victims. That number continues to fluctuate. You guys mentioned 11. We heard 9. I'm hearing different numbers now, and just it was a multiple casualty event,
Cody
and that
Rage.
there are multiple victims
Hope
here.
everyone
We
is
just don't
staying
know
warm.
what the final numbers are. We're awaiting a 3 o'clock news conference in town over at the Government Center, where we think we'll get more information about what took place and why, and some of the fallout, the human fallout from what's happened. You could probably see a bomb. We assume a bomb sniffing dog being led across the parking lot there in front of our eyes. I guess there may be a couple K9 units that I'm eyeballing here.
Thank you, Liz. It is not an abortion clinic. I didn't think so.
Just continued law enforcement presence as this investigation really, begins in earnest now.
For those of you who might live in the area who are helping out with info, very much appreciate you during times like these.
The work begins
when we bounce around
the country. If they are now officially comfortable with that scene, going through there now with the K9 units.
Nate says whatever you say,
as they collect evidence from what must be a horrible scene described as a disaster from the outset to me.
All right, Paul, thanks for getting us caught up there right outside the clinic on the ground. We appreciate it.
We are seeing some what appears to be bomb-sniffing dogs. That's generally what they're used for, and you can see law enforcement doing that right now to cars that are in the parking lot. My presumption in this, and it's nothing more than that, is that they are looking possibly for what would have been the suspect's vehicle. But they are certainly taking that dog to every vehicle that they come by there, and they're opening
donations
up some.
are greatly appreciated.
That
Please do,
if
you feel it's worthy, share, and react, which helps with distribution.
They're continuing their investigation,
as well as commenting.
Secure that area, make sure that if there were explosives
in our community and in chat, you're more than welcome to join us. Anybody here is welcome.
I want to also bring you up to speed on what's happening. We're told at 2 o'clock,
disagree with anyone else who might not share the same views as you.
Minnesotans on this event. You're seeing a live look right now at the podium he will be using when that happens in about 8
you
minutes,
can type
if
in
they're on
exclamation
time.
point
That is one of our photojournalists
get
checking the
notified
mics
when
and
I do
making
go
sure that
live.
things are as they
During
need
times
to
like
be
these,
for
it's
the governor when he comes up
particularly helpful.
to update all of us
I
on the
cover
latest
protests,
information as
politics,
it occurred.
riots,
Again,
rallies,
this is a
etc.
massive
Events,
event
news.
that has affected all Minnesotans who know of it at this time, and the governor wants
Sheila,
to make sure that he
Brian, Jenna,
addresses
good to
it
be
too.
with you guys.
All right.
Bree,
We
Janice,
want to check
Manuel,
in now with
you as well on
Rob
YouTube.
Olson. Rob, you're at the Government Center in Buffalo. What can you tell us?
Well, this is the Government Center, the old courthouse. So we're in what is now an unused courtroom where the news conference will take place at 3 o'clock today. And this is going to be obviously a large number of various law enforcement officials. This is now local, is county, is state, and federal authorities involved in this as well. Spoke to the BCA. They have agents on their way here to be part of the investigation. And the BCA Crime Lab, you know, the state crime lab is a major part of processing scenes like this. And they are arriving, if they've not already, should be here shortly to assist in that. And the FBI has some special agents that are on their way here as well. Special agents, I'm told, with expertise in incendiary devices, so they can assist in that investigation. That has anything to do with the explosives, any potential further explosives found here as a part of this.
Good to be with
the
you
FBI's role, though, in this, beyond that, remains to be seen, I'm told, depending on what comes out as far as motive here. If this is a motive for, if this is a disgruntled ex-employee, for example, if there's some motive like that, then the FBI would not be involved. If this turns out to be connected to some sort of extremist ideology,
Cody Rage
designated hate group, if there's that element, then they would be. So much in flux right now. As we wait to learn more, and including the law enforcement agencies here, also waiting to learn more to determine then what their ultimate role will be.
Was
of course, federal involvement here with the Bureau of the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms involved. But again, the FBI on their way here to be part of this investigation in terms of assisting with the expertise that they have and to determine, again, if there's a larger role for them or not. Depending on how this shakes out with what we learn about why this took place.
Concurrent viewers,
a lot more of these agencies coming into town. They would all anticipate to be part of this news conference here coming up in this courtroom at 3 o'clock this afternoon. And hopefully by then, a lot of pieces will move to find out a lot more, shed more light on what occurred and why it occurred and where we go from here. Back to you.
All right, Rob. Thank you. We'll be joining that news conference here. I believe at 3 o'clock is the one at the Emergency Center, and then Governor Walz again is holding his news conference here coming up in about 5 minutes.
This is Walz's city.
For you as well.
You were watching, and if we could go back to that video, unless they put the dogs away, but you were watching a live video of the law enforcement agency that is there checking the parking lot of the Albany Clinic with their evidence sniffing dogs. I hesitate to say bomb sniffing because those dogs are trained to do many things, and I don't know what the purpose of these are, but they are certainly canine units that are trained to sniff things out, and that's exactly what was going on there with at least 2 different animals in the parking lot. We saw a video live a short time ago. There's one of the dogs right there. We saw a video a short time ago of some trunks being opened, some cars being evaluated by those canines, as often is the case, and I think the presumption here is that they're checking every single thing they can in that parking lot for any type of evidence or any type of dangerous device that may still be present around that clinic. There was earlier reports that somehow, some way, bombs may have been involved in this or may have been set.
And all
we did see the Minneapolis bomb
live
squad there as well, and very prominent,
which kind of makes it exciting as well.
Entrance to that building with their massive bomb
but
unit.
I'd much rather people see things for themselves,
with the
formulate their own basis of opinion than be told
that they can explode a device inside of. That was there as well, and this has been the next iteration of that search. The K-9 units in the parking lot.
Or news in general.
Law enforcement sources did tell our Paul Bloom, and this was very early on, that there were 3 bombs, 2 of which were detonated. And as the morning has gone on, we've heard different reports.
So it was both.
We've heard witnesses, obviously, who were in the building, who were, one was outside the building in a car with her mom, dropping her mom off at the time, where they heard the gun
on Facebook.
So we hear that from the witnesses on the ground. We've also seen, one of our producers said that she spoke with with a witness who said she heard explosions. So at this point, it's still pretty muddy as to these different sounds that people were hearing, what may have been gunshots, what may have been explosions caused by bombs. There's also a secondary site here where law enforcement has built a perimeter around the Super 8 motel, which I believe they said was about a mile away. Not far at all from this site.
Punky, see, you got 10 now.
While we don't know the connection yet,
you're breaking the curve.
They're there, our Karen Scullin is there, and she did report that the bomb squads are there as well, and that the belief is that he may have been staying at the Super 8 motel. So again, that's what we know about the distinction between some of the gunshots. And you can see the windows there on YouTube once it breaks 10. I believe that goes to like 25. That may or may not be. It's hard to tell to the left of the awning, but we know for certain on the right-hand side you can see where the glass is shattered out because the blinds keep moving in the wind, so you can tell that it's broken out.
And it was what was referenced by the witness that Jim Rich talked to, and that was the blown-out windows in the front of the building there, indicating and backing up what the two nurses
Jenna
that
Phillips,
ran out
that lone wheelchair
vehicle said is that there were gunshots going off, and that's when those front windows exploded as well.
Consider
here's
that.
what we do know: the reference to a single suspect taken into custody. We really don't know much about it. Described as an older individual by those who were inside the clinic at the time
to be honest, if it's at
of
the
the
curb
shootings.
like that would be a good
We've
sign.
heard various accounts of how many people may be
transportation
involved,
services
anywhere
that
from
take people
9
to the clinics,
to
that's
11.
where they'll
Again,
normally walk
eyewitness
people in and
accounts
out.
can be very sketchy at times. We just don't know. We have not gotten any official word from any law enforcement agencies or medical agencies that would indicate how many victims there may have been, nor do we know if any are fatal. We do know that there was blood rushed from Minneapolis to the Buffalo Hospital, which is where the victims would have been taken. That would indicate the need for trauma, life-saving blood. So there certainly is reason to be concerned. We've heard from state officials, we've heard from local officials. We expect to hear from the governor here in less than a minute on this topic as well. We may get more information
before he gives that update.
As Rob Olson pointed out, we certainly will get more information at 3 o'clock at the Wright County Government Center, where various law enforcement agencies are expected to conduct a news conference as well with updated information. But again, as we noted earlier, the governor is expected to speak at 2 o'clock on this topic to update Minnesotans on what has occurred out here in Buffalo, Minnesota, not far from the western suburbs of the Twin Cities. A lot of folks that live there work here in the Twin Cities. And this is where this has occurred.
About 40 miles northwest of the Twin Cities area. This clinic is relatively new. There's an Allina Hospital that's nearby, the Buffalo Hospital campus, and then this is a specialty clinic that, again, is nearby. It's a family medical clinic, and it covers everything from physical exams to vaccinations. There's also pediatric care here as well. And according to their website, they do have about 10 doctors and nurse practitioners that are listed as providers at this clinic. So,
hey, Lee, good to
again,
see
we've
you,
been watching law enforcement go in and out. The perimeter has been fairly stable now since we've been watching it for the last couple of hours. Nothing much has changed in the perimeter, but we do know that a lot of support has been brought in, as Randy mentioned, from the ATF, the FBI, Hennepin County Bomb Squad is there.
Standoff conversation.
It sounds like we're ready to take the governor.
It's a good time.
Is the governor up? There he goes. All right,
He's
let's listen in.
making his way to the microphones. Again, this is a chance for the governor to update Minnesotans on what has occurred here, at least as far as can be divulged at this point in terms of what evidence has been conducted or concluded. And the governor expected to make that information as he gets his temperature checked there to be COVID safe. Everybody masked in that environment there. But the governor greeting several people in a COVID-friendly way as he makes his way toward the awaiting press conference. Again, the governor,
not the gentleman on
the information that we have is probably
best angle, sleeping B,
as detailed possibly as what the governor can do as well. We expect most of the
good man,
detailed
Lee. Good to see you,
to
brother.
come out at 3 o'clock. The presumption is the governor. This is an opportunity for the governor to address Minnesotans and express
my heart can't take
the same feelings that all of us do when these kind of things happen. And the tragedy, we wish
my
the
expectation
victims
is that they would probably
quick healing.
Probably, if they had a chance to be the first ones,
will address all those things when he addresses the media and the rest of Minnesotans here in just a couple minutes.
You know, to you mothers out there, that maternal instinct,
right about now.
Hey, Jay Oliver, good to see you, brother. Hey, Tom in chat, Mr. Waltz.
Good afternoon, everyone, and good afternoon, Minnesota. Thank you for taking some time with us. We're here at Jones Harrison, and in just a few minutes, we'll talk a little bit about where we're at in the vaccine process, especially in long-term care. This is a good story. This is a place where the battle against COVID was fought on the front lines and where they're winning. And I think it gives an opportunity to thank some of the folks involved with that. But before we do that, I wanted to address a little bit, as the news has been coming out over about the past 2 hours from the tragic situation out in Buffalo at the Albany Clinic, at the Buffalo Crossroads Clinic. At this time, what we know is there was an active shooter situation and some improvised explosive devices. It's not confirmed yet. Casualties or those injured in this, the way it has been explained to me recently, as I was on with DPS and BCA, they have a suspect in custody. I was able to talk with Mayor Lackameyer out in Buffalo. And I would like to send a thank you to the Buffalo Police Department, the Wright County Sheriffs, and the mayor and her team. They were very much on it. We had, of course, a middle school in the area. She immediately talked about that they were on lockdown and provided security around the area. And at this time, it appears like it was a single individual. And again, too early to tell motives or reasons why, or to be able to discuss in a little more detail. But our thoughts and prayers and, of course, our support with BCA, with Department of Public Safety, with DNR, State Patrol. And at this time, we understand that there has been some early interaction with
Lee,
FBI and
coverage, brother. You got
ATF because of the explosive devices involved with this. But I don't have any further information at this time on the situation, but we'll continue to update as we get more. I believe the mayor said that the incident command team and herself will be going sometime around 3 o'clock to give an update on that. So, and at the end, if we need any questions on that, I'd sure take them. But I'm here today, and I want to thank Annette Greeley, President and CEO of Jones Harrison, someone who's been involved with this for an awful long time. I believe we met as far back as last summer when we started to see a working, of course, with Commissioner Malcolm on understanding at that point in time, it became very clear that COVID disproportionately was impacting long-term care facilities across the country and here in Minnesota, and ways that we could slow the transmission, way we could protect residents. And of course, back then we were talking about doing those mitigation measures until we got to the day of vaccinations. And I understand that as of Friday, the 400 residents here have been vaccinated. It's a great achievement, and I think during this time, and the fight is still going on, but the tide is definitely turning in this battle against COVID, and I think a lot of that needs to give great thanks to those frontline healthcare workers who are working in these facilities. This is where COVID did the most damage. This is where both the health, physical impact, and the mental impact that was felt by COVID because of what it was doing was felt the most.
I was just thinking
Annette,
the same thing.
and
A mass
others
shooting in the
working
opens
with
with
Commissioner Malcolm started to make the turn and the pivot as early as last summer in ways that we could slow that mitigation. And every day since this has started, we start our morning with a brief on COVID, and there's the section on long-term care.
And also,
there was
he's getting
points
a ton
in
of
time
eyes
when
right now, so I feel like
39% of
it's
our
an
long-term care
opportunity
facilities had active cases in them. And it was very difficult because a lot of it was coming from community spread that was being brought in. And then, of course, mitigation measures that were just painful to implement, of not having families be able to see their loved ones. It has been just a battle. And I think taking some time today to pause a little bit at a facility, as I said, that did everything they could to protect their residents. And then when the time came to vaccinate, we're on the front lines to get it done as quickly as possible. And so you're going to hear from Annette. You're going to hear from one of those nurses on the front line. And then I think the one I want to be thankful for, you're going to hear from Peter and family to talk a little bit about the residents here who come through this thing and
in the description,
are now vaccinated. And now
there is pretty much the only confirmed report that there is side speculation.
All your residents in the state, and thank you for this partnership. So,
Marie,
Annette Greeley.
and the FBI's office, based out of Buffalo, New York.
All right, there you have the governor doing exactly what we thought he would do, and that is address what has happened out there in Buffalo, the
But I think it was
shooting,
Buffalo, Missouri.
Active shooter, he
right.
described it as we did this morning
Though there
as
is
well,
one in New York.
with also including improvised explosive devices, a single individual, as he called it, and he sent out his thoughts, his prayers, and his support to the folks out in Buffalo who are now having to deal with this both physically and mentally as we move forward and learn more information about exactly what happened out there and how many people may have been affected by this particular shooter. You're seeing an aerial view there from Skyfox 9. That is the Albany Clinic. It sits right at the junction. It's called the Crossroads in Buffalo of Highway 55 and Highway 35, County Road 35 out there.
Okay, so that was based out of the capital of New York Valley. Thank you very much. Appreciate you.
Of several nurses.
It would make sense.
There are 10 doctors that also practice out of there, primarily family
ATF
health care.
on a federal level is based out of the
call
capital
came in shortly after 11 a.m. this morning of an active shooter
That's who's likely
entering the
getting there
building,
right now.
firing what was
There's a
described
task
as
force
9 to 11
with
shots.
ATF, FBI,
Windows,
DOD, a whole
front
bunch,
windows of the building
basically.
shot out. Also talk of explosive devices having gone off inside that building. Since then, we have
Forensics
seen
will get there
multiple
as well as
agencies
CSI.
respond, including the Minneapolis bomb squad, the most recent to arrive there or to take over the investigation there with their unit in the front of the building, and the canine units in the parking lot that began to actively search cars in the parking lot as well. We also know that
Kathy Berg, that's where you're from, no kidding.
Who is near the Super 8, not
Buffalo.
far from here, about a
Everybody
5-minute walk, that there is a secured area around a hotel there, the presumption that the suspect may have stayed there, and also may have been more weapons or devices in that hotel as well. So that brings you up to speed in terms of the details that we know. The suspect in custody, most important part, and we believe for the
totally
most
agree
part
with you guys.
that the area around that clinic
everyone
has
who
been
mentioned
secured
Wise
as far as the
speaking
general
about
public is concerned.
And this is Kelsey now stepping in for Amy, and the governor confirming that the FBI and the ATF are on scene as well because of those explosive devices that they need to investigate. Again, he said he doesn't have that much information right now, but could confirm a few things for us. We will learn more. Will address the public about what happened today. A quick update from the school system, Buffalo, Hanover, Montrose schools. They are canceling after school and evening activities, including community education classes and programs. Kid care, though, will remain open until 6:30 tonight.
The next event that will occur out there in Wright County will happen at the Wright County Government Center. That's where agencies will brief the public and reporters on what details they can brief us on at 3 o'clock. Our Rob Olson is standing by there. He joined us a short time ago to kind of give us a summary of what we expect to happen, Rob, at 3 o'clock.
Senate.
Well, there will be a lot of people involved in this coming at 3 o'clock. You can see some of the setup going on now. Many law enforcement agencies here, local, state, federal, all involved in this now that will be part of this. Obviously, the main ones here, the Buffalo Police Department and the Wright County
Stand Strong
Sheriff's Department, but also
be good. Facebook.
TF involved in investigating incendiary devices, and the FBI is here as well. Now, what they have told me is that they've got special agents here that are trained in incendiary devices to offer their expertise and assist. Their role in any investigation going forward, though, depends on what we learn here.
They'll be able to
and what
analyze,
agents
tell
learn
you what
here
it was
about
composed of,
why this
phosphorus,
occurred, the
red
motive
phosphorus,
that
like
occurred.
matched him,
If
solvent,
it is
that kind of
something
stuff.
that gets into the FBI's domain, extremist ideology, that sort of thing, then the FBI would play a role.
Specific
Short of
screws
that,
were
though,
used. They'll match up the threads on those to know
would not, but could
manufacturers and
assist with
brands.
the expertise that they do have in the areas that they do have. So again, a lot of different agencies.
Actually, a
here.
really good case
Again,
study
the
was
prime
the
ones being
Unibomber. They took
local
his whole home,
police
which
department
was
here in Buffalo,
like
and the
a
Wright County
camper,
Sheriff. But again,
and submitted it as
the
evidence.
DCA and the FBI and the
which was a
ATF,
making
all part of this,
factory, as
as
you guys
more resources pour in here to
He would
really
ride
go
into
over
town,
what is
mail
a pretty large area of investigation. Certainly a larger number of victims that we're hearing about. And with the suspect in custody, we'll see again what they can
Mr.
tell us
T
here
will be
coming up
blamed
at
for
3
this, I
about
bet.
what he
Likely,
may
yeah.
have told them about why this occurred and maybe how long it had been in the planning, what led up to this in recent days or weeks. So again, a lot more of this. We hope to learn more. Sometimes these news conferences can go on for a while, but they don't have a lot to say at preliminary stages, so we'll see what happens. But certainly a lot of different voices here, a lot of different sources of investigative knowledge that will be part of this, and that's what's coming up here at 3 in this former courtroom at the Government Center. Back to you.
Rob Olson from the Wright County Government Center is pointed out there in Buffalo. And we hope what we can learn, if nothing else, at that update at 3 o'clock would be the condition or where we are with victims. And that would be a very important message sent out to the community of Buffalo.
All right, and we're learning from the governor at 2 o'clock today these improvised explosive devices that are under investigation. We want to go to Paul Bloom, who's outside the clinic right now. You can see Jim Rich there, and there's a shot of the glass that's been blown out at the front of this clinic.
It went to the right.
We do have Paul Bloom on the scene to talk a little bit about what he's seeing and what he's having a chance to hear from witnesses on the scene as well. Again, Paul, we still don't know how many people are hurt, and that's the big question right now.
If it's close enough.
And those numbers are fluctuating. At one point, I was told 9 injured. That number coming down now. We're really going to have to wait till 3 o'clock to get a firm number on the number of injured and the potential number of deaths, fatalities here that might have resulted from this gunfire and these improvised explosive devices or bombs, if you will. I had been told from the outset that 2 had gone off. They were concerned about a third, which brought sort of the Minneapolis police bomb squad. I'm going to kind of step out of the shot, but you've joined us kind of throughout our coverage. At one point in the last hour or so, that the heavy machinery and technology and equipment used to detonate improvised explosive devices or suspected IEDs has now pulled away from the front entrance of that clinic. I have been told by one law enforcement source they are looking closely. We've talked about it throughout the day, that Super 8 hotel and whether there were some devices in a hotel room over there. So I do know there is some interest in that hotel. There will continue to be interest in that hotel. Now, the suspect, as you mentioned, in custody. My understanding now, the investigative work on a potential motive now begins. Detectives doing deep dives on who was taken into custody, what his motivation was here. 3 o'clock, absolutely critical in terms of finally getting a full assessment on those injured and what we're exactly dealing with. And really, because of these IEDs and the potential explosive devices, has kind of created this odd sort of crime scene, if you will. This scene has been eerily quiet. We don't see the coming and goings when we arrive at a mass casualty event. There clearly, has been something throughout the day that has kept law enforcement and emergency responders out of that building, investigators for the most part. But again, we do note that the Minneapolis bomb squad and their heavy machinery has pulled away from the front entrance. There are now several different marked police vehicles in the driveway. We just continue to try to make sense of this. But again, it sounds like the people who know what's going on have a clear picture of what completely unfolded between here and that motel this morning are over now at the Government Center where Rob Olson is, and we will get kind of our first official explanation as to what happened. The governor certainly hinting at it with an active shooter. He didn't have specific numbers. As I've said, that number to me with some sourcing I've been using and trusting today, somewhere between 5 and 10. And the question now, if any fatalities in that
special
group.
Agents
But we've heard from witnesses, multiple gunshots. Again, early reports were 2 detonated devices. We'll again get confirmation of that, but certainly a concern here about IEDs, where they were planted, where they may have been kept, and where they would have exploded if they had. So a very much fluid situation here. Again, continuing to just observe this quiet building that just does not feel like it's
that's a pretty decently sized
turned
building.
into that full investigative crime scene at this point for some reason, and perhaps we'll get an explanation as to why that is.
I guess the best you can do is interview witnesses.
You're right,
make
Paul.
your
You know,
way to
just
the hard drive for
three
the
hours
cameras
ago, this was
and
such an
use
active
that
crime scene, and to see it
to
like
take
this right now is kind of
least
eerie as
amount of
we
travel
try to figure
possible
out all the
to see the
unknowns.
entire place.
Thank you
And his
for
where he
being
went.
outside the Alina Crossroads Clinic right now. We'll go back to you in just a little bit.
You mentioned that time frame,
the
some 3
dogs
hours and 16 minutes ago when the first
initial
reports
sweep,
came
which they
in.
did.
Our Jim Rich lives in the Buffalo area. That's considered his hometown right now. And he was able to
Jose
get
Vegas,
to the
good to
Alina
see you,
Clinic
brother.
very quickly.
And SpongeBob
Jim
as
was
well.
also able to interview one of the eyewitnesses there. Let's go to Jim Rich now. Jim, this was a traumatic event for the people who were there witnessing it.
General Clinic,
No doubt
Brock
about it, Randy. I mean, you've been out
Good
here.
question.
You know people that live in this community. A lot of Fox 9 employees work out here and live in this area. And this doesn't happen. I mean, this is a community where you stand up for your neighbor. You help them out. Guy needs something moved. You're the first guy there.
Janice
That's
sounds like
what
someone
this
with a
town has
grudge
been built
against the
on.
clinic.
That's why it's been such a
Possible.
great place for families to live over the years. And new people move in, they welcome them, they take care of them, and they try to help them out. But this is something that certainly has never happened in this community, and hopefully never happens again. We're standing by outside here, the Buffalo
peeps,
Hospital.
another day in chaos.
This is
Good to
where
see
the
you.
victims have been brought. About an hour ago, 2 state troopers came through here. We presume bringing blood for the victims. Lights and sirens were on, and then we just noticed something I want to show you here. About 10 minutes ago,
Hey,
police
Mr.
have
O'Malley,
now
good to see you, brother.
secured this area behind me and developing here. We'll have to see what they're doing. This is a residential neighborhood, and from what we can tell, police are setting up a perimeter. They're not letting any
That's
people
federal.
in unless they
That's
know
ATF
who
right
they
there, and
are or if
FBI.
they have a purpose to be in that neighborhood. But this is something that has just popped up here in the
They'll
last
always have the
10
white
minutes.
plates.
Earlier today, I
instead
was
of the
able to
colored
speak
plates.
with a witness that was there at the time,
As well.
dropping off her mom at the clinic when the shootings occurred. And she described what happened when 2 nurses came out to her car and wanted a ride to escape the scene.
Hey, Elizabeth.
You were pulling up to the clinic. Your mom had an appointment there today. Can you walk us through what happened next?
Yeah, I pulled in. I was just getting ready to drop her off at the door, and 2 of the nurses came running out to my vehicle and got in. They said they heard about 11 shots within a minute, and they didn't see a shooter, but they assumed that's what it was. And then about 2 minutes later, we saw the front windows be shot out, and we left the scene.
So what did they tell you when they got in the car? You were pulling up. Were you out of the vehicle at that time, or were you just
I was just
pulling
pulling up? I was just pulling up and saw them running out, so I knew something was wrong. And they said, "Oh, we heard gunshots and we need to go." So they got in and we left.
And where did you take them?
I took them to the other clinic so they could let them know what had happened. Let them know what had happened, and anyone could be transferred there, would know what's happening.
Right. It was. How crazy was it for you? I mean, you must have thought, like, wait, this is Buffalo. This
right,
this
Jose?
isn't something that just happens here, right?
Crazy. Yeah, I mean, my heart's still racing. That's where my kids go to the doctor, and I just hope they're all okay and wish I could have done more to help.
When they were in the vehicle, were they upset? Were they panicked? Were they calm? What was their mood like?
They were very scared and just wanted to get out of the place. Neither of them had their phone because they ran out so fast, so I let them call their relatives and whoever they needed to get a hold of and let them know they were okay.
Well, Tiffany, it was a great reason you were there to be there.
Did you call 911 then, or how'd that all go down then?
Sure, Tom.
Yes, they came out and I said, "Did anyone call 911?" And they said they didn't have their phones. So first thing I did was call 911. It was about, I think, 10:55 before any police or anything showed up. So.
And then did you have any? Did they have any sense of how long it's been from the time you picked them up till they heard the shooting? Was it seconds, minutes?
I would say they were just coming out of the building as I was pulling up, so it had to have just happened. The shooting they heard was coming from the back of the building, and they ran out the front to me.
Knowing that you were supposed to drop your mom off, you were minutes away. I mean.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, we could not even be here right now as a possibility. I mean, I was going to go drop her off at the front door and then park and come get her, and within minutes there was shooting at the front window that
Cody
she
Rage,
could have
we
been
need
sitting
more
right there,
trained
and
armed
she
citizens,
has a
correct?
hard time walking, so that's very scary.
Did you see anybody?
Police
Did
can't
they
be
see
everywhere
anybody? Did
100%
they have
of the
any
time.
idea of who it
It's
was
impossible.
or what their problem was that caused them to do this?
They did not see anyone. They just heard they said 11 shots within a minute. And to show us that it was a shooter, seeing those two front windows shot out, we knew that's what it was and that we had to get out of there.
Okay, Tiffany. Well, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it, and thank you for being so helpful. Okay, Randy, Kelsey, what we're looking at now is ATF agents have moved into this neighborhood to secure this scene. Not sure why they're here, but we just want to let you know that they've moved in here within the last 15 minutes. Perhaps we'll know more at the 3 o'clock press briefing, but
it's their scene.
They're still working the situation and trying to resolve this. Randy?
Let me ask you, Jim, because you're at the hospital now, not at the clinic.
They're keeping a perimeter.
These showed up near the hospital, which is a little bit confusing, but give people a sense for how far from the Albany clinic the hospital is, and now we're seeing this scene set up, which, as you point out, appears to be a perimeter being set up in a neighborhood nowhere near the Albany clinic.
Residence. That could be his residence.
I mean, I could venture a guess if you wanted me to, but
no guessing.
I don't know how far I should go with what we have, but all I know is they just arrived here within 15 minutes.
It would be a
doesn't seem
topic
to
of
have
interest.
to do with anything with this hospital.
Leave it at that.
It doesn't seem to do with anything of the victims. It seems like it has to be something I would assume, and again, I am assuming here, that it has to do with the suspect. So perhaps they have located a residence or something along those lines. But again, that is all just speculation and observation.
Says the
all
new
right, Jim
boogeyman
Rich, thank you. Thanks for being on this scene. Thank you for the interview.
It covers
and, we're sorry that this happened in your community.
To the person sharing the gospel.
And we do know the ATF is on
broad
scene
blanket
assessing
about
the bomb threat situation. So the ATF and the FBI are there near the hospital. Again, as Jim speculated there, it could have something to do with the suspect and perhaps where he lives. We'll wait to find out more information. Also, Jim's outside that Buffalo hospital, and he said he saw the pilots, the State Patrol pilots coming in. They had said earlier they were flying in 6 boxes from the Red Cross to Buffalo Hospital for the victims. We want to go to Karen Scullen, who's been at another crime scene, potential crime scene outside the Super 8, where they were also assessing a bomb threat situation. So, Karen, do we have you on the phone? Can you hear us and maybe give us an update from there?
Are good.
Sure. Actually, I'm not at the Super 8. I've moved from that location, which is still very active. Certainly a lot of law enforcement still on scene there, along with a bomb squad, as you mentioned. It appears, obviously, they are checking to see if there are any bombs at that location. Now we've moved just a few miles away from there to a neighborhood that we believe is connected, possibly where the suspect in this case is living. We don't want to give the exact location, as we don't have a lot of information confirmed at this point. I can tell you the road is blocked in the area. Traffic is barely moving through, but police are very much controlling who's coming in and out of this area here. Right now, it looks like slowly maybe some law enforcement gathering and moving into this area here. Again, though, hard to tell exactly how this is connected. We are certainly seeing several different situations or scenes throughout the small city of Buffalo here.
I know what video that's
at the
from.
Hospital.
Or I should say who
the
that's
neighborhood.
from.
We have the Super 8 situation, and then the Albany Clinic, of course. So right now, I'm just kind of monitoring the situation, and we're kind of watching and waiting to see what happens, if anything, here, and trying to piece together exactly how this might be connected to the entire situation. I think
isn't live.
The situation is so
shot
fluid, and so many things are developing minute to minute, really, and we're just kind of gathering information and kind of watching and waiting to get things confirmed at this point. But again, we are at a situation, a neighborhood that we believe is connected. There are police here blocking traffic, but that is it at this point. If anything changes or develops, we'll certainly keep you updated on that.
Yeah, Karen, let us know as soon as you have any new information. We'll come right back to you in that area where we know ATF and law enforcement are gathering potentially something that's connected to this one individual who's been taken into custody. Karen Scullen, thank you from Buffalo.
As we get closer to the bottom of the hour here, a couple of things I want to update you on, knowing that the Wright County Government Center at that site will hold a press conference. You're seeing video right now from Skyfox 9, the front windows of the Albany Clinic blown out. So I wanted to let you know what you're seeing there as I tell you kind of where we're going with this story. a 3 o'clock
10 PAs
press
and
conference to
doctors
update us
work their
on
total.
which agencies are involved and what we know in terms of what they can release
No,
for
it
details. I
wasn't
think
like
the
a
primary
female clinic.
point of
A
that
lot of
would
you
be
have been asking.
an update on the victims.
That's not that kind of
how many are there? What's the
Hey,
condition
Stony
of
Boy,
those
good to see you, brother.
victims? Because we are hearing different numbers, and none of it is confirmed at this point.
Janice,
there are 4
when's my birthday?
scenes out there in Buffalo that now have law enforcement or other agencies at right
Somewhere
now. That's one of
between
them, the
December
Albany clinic there, where the
November,
assault,
the
active
next
shooter, and the shooting took place. Also armed with improvised explosive devices. That first call came in about 11 a.m. Another scene is near the Super 8 Hotel, not far from there. That was quickly cordoned off with other law enforcement agencies, presumably some connection to the suspect. We also have the Buffalo Hospital, which is where the victims were taken, where you just heard from Jim Rich, as we see another one of those heavy equipment vehicles from law enforcement moving through
Look at that.
Buffalo
That's not
there
a Bearcat. That's an
as they
MRAP.
check out all of those
Or a
scenes. The
variant
fourth
of it.
scene,
That is
which
a
is just developing
gnarly thing.
now,
Look at that
and where you just
turd.
heard from Karen Scullin, is a neighborhood, and this neighborhood appears not far from the Buffalo Hospital, coincidentally, also being cordoned off at this point by law enforcement as well. So there are various places in the city of Buffalo where law enforcement and other agencies are conducting an investigation right now in a situation that began to unfold around 11 a.m. this morning with an active shooter inside the Alliant Clinic in Buffalo, where several victims were injured.
In the event the worst
and we do not
happens,
know
they're
at this
already
point what
prepared
the condition
and good to
of
go.
those victims are. The governor, Tim Walz, addressed Minnesotans a short time ago, about a half hour ago.
You know,
He was at a
obviously nowhere
long-term
near
care facility in Minneapolis talking
can get
about
any
COVID
critical
efforts and vaccination efforts in the Twin Cities. But he did say that right
There's
now
that
their
heavy
thoughts, their prayers are with the folks of Buffalo. Let's listen into what the governor had to say.
At this time, what we know is there was an active shooter situation and some improvised explosive devices. It's not confirmed yet. Casualties are those injured in this. The way it has been explained to me recently, as I was on with DPS and BCA, they have a suspect in custody. I was able to talk with Mayor Lackameyer out in Buffalo. And I would like to send a thank you to the Buffalo Police Department, the Wright County Sheriffs, and the mayor and her team. They were very much on it. We had, of course, a middle school in the area. She immediately talked about that they were on lockdown and provided security around the area. And at this time, it appears like it was a single individual. And again, too early to tell motives or reasons why, or to be able to discuss in a little more detail. But our thoughts and prayers, and of course our support with BCA, with Department of Public Safety, with DNR, State Patrol, and at this time we understand that there has been some early interaction with FBI and ATF because of the explosive devices involved with this. But I don't have any further information at this time on the situation, but we'll continue to update as we get more.
Governor Walz about a half hour ago.
And we're hearing from Senator Amy Klobuchar as well. She posted this tweet just a short time ago. Tragic shooting at a Buffalo, Minnesota health clinic today, not far from where I grew up. Several critically injured. So sad for all those there at the clinic and those injured, and praying for their recovery. Thanks to those saving lives right now. Gun violence must stop. And Rob Olson is at the Government Center in Buffalo right now, where a 3 o'clock news conference is set to take place, where we will learn, hopefully, some more information from local officials. And so, Rob, we know this single individual has been taken into custody, but we're not hearing anything yet about a motive.
No, and it's hard to say at this point, a half hour out from this news conference here at the Wright County Government Center, if they'll be able to speak to that in any detail or not, whether the investigation is at a point where they feel comfortable sharing some of those details with us. If it's moving quickly enough, they can. Obviously, it's kind of hard to predict at this point. We do know that set to speak here in a half hour is the Buffalo Police Chief, the Wright County Sheriff, and the president of the hospital here in Buffalo. Those are the three that are slated to address this news conference with hopefully with some more details on what occurred and how many were injured, how they're being treated. Hopefully some good news potentially on some prognosis, obviously fearing the worst at this point. And then, of course, from the president of the hospital here to talk about what occurred inside and the reaction. Whether there'll be anybody else that steps up to the microphone remains to be seen. Of course, a lot of agencies here. I do know that the FBI is here in the building. They
the
came
motive
in
could be
to
as
be part of
simple
this news
as
conference,
lost a
whether
loved
they
one to
actually will
C-19.
address
Got depressed
folks
over the year
remains
and
to be
took it
seen.
out
The
on
Bureau of
so-and-so.
Criminal Apprehension on the ground here as well, along with the ATF. So a lot of different agencies here, but at this point, slated to speak here again are the Buffalo Police, Wright County Sheriff, and the president of the Buffalo Hospital. So hopefully here in a half an hour we can shed a little bit more light on what happened here in its totality and
Amen.
any
Linda
insight
Jeffers,
as to
thank you for
why
saying
this may have
P
occurred,
for their families,
what
P
led
for
to
America.
this. It's so unthinkable that something like this would
Send
happen.
some prayers
So to
their
shed
way. I
any
want to
sort of
comment to
light
P
on,
in chat.
the mindset
You're more than
leading into
welcome
this,
to do the same if you'd
we'll
like.
see if that could occur. So we're here. It's getting busier and busier as more people pour in. This will be crowded here by 3 o'clock, and we will, of course, get you all the latest.
So that's 28 minutes out,
Rob,
correct?
the Wright
Central
County
is
Sheriff, Buffalo
Michigan.
Police, and also the president of the hospital set to address the public here at 3 o'clock. Hopefully we'll understand maybe a bigger picture view of all of this with all of those explosive devices and scenes being investigated for potential bomb threats. There are a lot of questions about the bigger threat involved in this, even though we know a single individual has been taken into custody. And these are some still pictures outside the scene there. And again, the Alina Crossroads Clinic, an active crime scene with windows blown out.
Good to see you, Andrew.
Quiet right now because that
see you,
individual
Ray.
has been taken into custody.
Marilyn,
but
you as well.
there are several other active locations being investigated, including a Super 8, and then
Stone,
also a
Mr.
line
O'Malley,
of
Karen,
cars,
Cody,
emergency
Dawn,
vehicles, forming a perimeter around a residential
Paige,
neighborhood
Sheila,
that is also near the Buffalo
Rachel.
Hospital.
Appreciate
Let's
you
get back
guys.
to where it all began. Paul Bloom has been on the scene there since the first reports came in, and we got him out there as fast as we could. Paul has been able to gather as much details from the scene as
Cher says
possible.
she's got
Paul,
emoji, a
it's
glass
bottom
of
of the
wine
hour
and
here.
some
We
prayers.
know that we're going to get some information updated at 3 o'clock, but bring our viewers up to speed on what you saw when you arrived and at least the details as we know them at this hour, which is 2:33.
Yeah, Randy, Kelsey, we've talked about just the scene and how quiet the clinic is behind me, and obviously continues to remain so. At one point, the Minneapolis bomb squad had its heavy machinery and equipment up there. See a couple folks now on the jog. You know, you're looking for any sort of sign of why people might be running. Obviously concerning on the surface. Perhaps just cold and running to their vehicles. It's hard to assess that, but I will point out
Yes,
one
that
thing
is
that
correct,
has changed
Kathy.
here
6
at the scene
boxes
in the
of
last
blood
few minutes.
out
The
back.
BCA crime scene team is here. I know Rob's been talking about their potential involvement here. Obviously, perhaps the most thorough of investigative agencies in the state. They are on scene. The Minneapolis bomb squad, I've noticed their big trailer has left the scene, perhaps moving to one of these other locations. Suspect residence, that motel, I'm told, is a concern. So we just don't know. It's hard to process what we're seeing here.
There's a motel
until
involved.
we hear from
He might have
authorities
been
with
from
their
out of town.
official assessment at 3 o'clock. That the victims of the gunfire
It's honestly all
has
speculation
fluctuated
at this
somewhere
point.
between 5 and 10 for me today. Unclear if anyone was killed. Perhaps get some more specific information again at the top of the hour. All we can do is assess what we see. Talk to witnesses who heard the gunfire, who ran from that scene, who protected others. Assuming, it was a while till we actually physically arrived here. They got the victims out, perhaps evacuated that building, and it just otherwise, other than seeing some small groups coming and going in that bomb squad that was here, now about an hour ago. Just no movement whatsoever, nothing going on. I wish
There
I
we
could,
go. Roughly
provide more
on the
commentary of how to assess it. It is a building with 2 blown out windows. It is the scene of what we understand is horrible gun violence today. Perhaps an explosive device going off
snowmobiles
within the
They're gonna
perimeter
be
there.
looking in the
We
woods
don't
like
know
you
earlier
spoke down
today
the joint.
until we get confirmation, but
They very
it just
well
stands
might be.
alone, and we just assume the investigation is ongoing. Perhaps right now the manpower
Unless
is
he
concerned
came
about
in
these
from
other
more
locations
rural
for some
area.
reasons,
They
and-
do count.
and they'll
See,
come back
Winchester,
here.
Wright County,
I just don't
they
know
do
what
travel
to make
between
of
counties.
why this is
But
a
they do
ghost,
have access to roads.
building at this point. It's hard to connect the
Are they
dots on
expecting
that,
snow?
but
Do you know?
clearly crews are handling this building delicately, and we'll just have to assess and then be able to put the pieces together at 3 o'clock and understand what happened, why this building has sort of been left for now, and attention has shifted to other parts of Buffalo.
Well, just stand by for a second. I want to bring our viewers up to speed in terms of where you are. If we can bring up a map that shows our non-Buffalo viewers exactly the area we're talking about. Again, this is a active shooter involved about 11 a.m. this morning at that Albany clinic that Paul is standing outside. And there, it's called the Crossroads Clinic because it's right there at County Road 35 and Highway 55 there. And it sits kind of outside of sort of the perimeter of town there, but in an area, a growing area, so it's not far from anything, frankly. And the hospital not far from there as well.
Farmland top right.
We're taken to. This unfolded about 11 o'clock. If we can maybe show our viewers some of the on-scene video that we were able to gather 2.5 hours ago when this first broke. Obviously, as you can imagine, there was a massive response from law enforcement. But as Paul pointed out throughout these last couple hours, they stayed away from the clinic, and now we can surmise they did that because of the threat of improvised explosive devices inside that building, in addition to the gunfire that went off. And sure enough, approximately an hour and a half after the event occurred, the Minneapolis bomb squad, massive main unit, arrived there in the front of the building with one of those pieces of equipment that can operate remotely to get any type of explosive device inside what is a sphere on the back of that and detonate if you have to. That was there for approximately an hour and a half and has recently left the front. But you can see what Paul was referring to there, the blown out glass on both sides of that front awning area there where patients and staff come and go. And that's where an eyewitness that Jim Rich was able to talk to said she was in the process of dropping her mother off when two nurses ran from those front doors and in a frantic way asked if they could get in their car and be taken away because there was a shooter inside the building.
Tom seems more like an Adidas guy.
What they thought were 9 or so shots in the back of the building where they were not. Other witnesses have described the suspect
when it
as
comes
an
to
older
shooters, they're
individual,
kind of like my politicians.
male individual. But that's really about all we have.
They didn't have a party
since that time.
Green Party would have had my vote
on this map to give again our viewers who may not
far
be
away
that
from
familiar with
politics as
Buffalo an
possible.
idea of what we're talking about. Again, Buffalo, not a big city, kind of a small bedroom community that where a lot of folks do work here in the Twin Cities and live out there. But that scene then very quickly became one of law enforcement getting the victims to the. There's the unit I was talking about, the Minneapolis Bomb Squad unit that arrived there.
Thank you, Ash. As always, viewers are welcome to like,
the
follow.
original
If you type in
shooting
exclamation point
occurred.
notify,
They have
you
since
get
left,
notified
and as
when
Paul
I go
pointed
live.
out, there are now 3 other scenes in the city of Buffalo.
events
One at
and
the
news
Best
that happen
Western,
in the
where we
country,
had our Karen
protest riots,
Scullin.
rallies, etc.
That seems to have been secured. Presumption that maybe some connection to the suspect.
The initial scene.
The hospital where the victims were taken, another scene, and then most recently, within the last half hour, a scene involving a neighborhood not far from, not this clinic, but the hospital.
All right, we want to go back out to Paul and just talk a little bit about some of the answers that we still need as we approach this 3 o'clock press conference. So, Paul, we don't know any kind of motive. We don't know what the threat may still be out there and why we have the ATF in other parts of the city of Buffalo right now. And most importantly, we just don't know how many people are hurt.
Correct. It looked like Wright County just posted a tweet a minute ago shared by the newsroom.
Do you think it might be like a lone wolf, and it has to do with what's going on in D.C. right now?
A little bit of the loose framework, multiple people taken to the hospital at the exact time of that 911 call, which we knew was
in their
just
mind,
before
or
11
like a false
o'clock.
flag.
Active shooter situation, no specifics on the numbers, again pointing us to a 3 o'clock news conference where we should learn more. Again, we've kind of shown you several times now, just sort of the building remains evacuated. They evacuated the building, several people taken to the hospital after this gunfire here today. I can tell you at least a little bit on the suspect front. In custody, investigators doing a deep dive on the suspect. My understanding, preliminary information, someone familiar to local law enforcement. So they are beginning to dig on possible motives here. It does sound like he is local, which would explain scenes around this community where more attention is being paid, given the alleged actions that occurred here. One can assume if it was an active situation, the suspect that was taken into custody was sort of an obvious suspect to law enforcement arriving. So investigators now doing a deep dive on motivation, what he was thinking, what he was doing, what he was
Honestly,
capable
that's more
of
consistent
doing
with someone who's
before
mentally
perhaps
ill
being
and
captured,
not
which is
suicidal,
why bomb
obviously,
squads and other
if they were.
ATF-type teams might have sprawled across Buffalo
welcome
to
back.
assess the potential danger
It does
that
have
exists even with him in
very
custody.
coincidental
So I think
timing
that is
with
the kind
certain
of stuff
bills
that's
that are
going
trying
on
to
right
get passed
now.
and
Again,
stuff like
hoping to
that.
learn a lot more information at 3 o'clock in terms of the numbers. We do know from emergency scanner traffic initially and some sourcing somewhere between 5 and 10 victims. 3 were reported to be critical from the outset. Right now, deep investigative work being done and then getting eyeballs and manpower on these locations that the suspect has been, perhaps his residence, perhaps a motel where he may have stayed or visited recently. But there's something that has turned the attention of sort of your bomb squads that are here that have moved on, the ATF that our fellow crews have seen around Buffalo, moving away from this location. This location has been evacuated. This was the scene of the violence, the bloodshed. Clearly, law enforcement feels like everybody is out of there. It has been kind of this eerie, ghost-like building now for several hours, save for that, half hour or so time frame mid-afternoon when the Minneapolis bomb squad pulled up with its heavy-duty detonation equipment. We didn't hear any subsequent IEDs going off or any didn't appear from our eyesight that they did anything at that front door, but certainly were eyeballing the situation and taking a look at what they had within that Albany clinic. But again, I think 3 o'clock will be critical, and then that will help connect these dots of what took place
I'm
today
going to run this stream
across
another
the city
15
and
minutes
Right,
for that press
also,
conference.
2 schools were evacuated.
We'll see if we get any additional
sent
details
to Buffalo High School. Those
from the
schools
scene
were
here in
Tatanka
Michigan.
Elementary,
Otherwise,
and also Pride
pop on over to the
transitions.
impeachment
And all
proceedings.
after-school activities have now been canceled for the school district
keep
as
an eye
well.
on this and bring
The
you
Wright
back
County
when they go
Sheriff's
live.
Office has issued a statement, and while there isn't a lot of new information, and we do expect to hear from them in about 15 minutes at 3 o'clock, they reiterated that they received this call at 10:54 this morning, and then they were dispatched to help Buffalo police. The suspect was arrested, and at this point, we don't think they're looking for anybody else, but the location was evacuated. Several people transported to area hospitals. We know that victims were taken to Buffalo Hospital and North Memorial as well in Minneapolis. The public is being asked to stay out of this area, of course, and law enforcement agencies and emergency vehicles remain in this area. We know that we have crime scenes at the Super 8 Hotel and also near a residential area near Buffalo Hospital. So schools were put on a temporary lockdown as a precautionary measure. So at 3 o'clock, we expect to hear from the Wright County Sheriff's Office, Buffalo Police, and the president of Buffalo Hospital.
What you're seeing right now is the aerial shot there of that Hennepin County bomb squad as they arrived at the scene after the shooting occurred, clearly to evaluate and assess if any of those devices, explosive devices that apparently were there or left at the scene or planted at the scene, could be removed, needed to be removed, or needed to be detonated. And they came in and out of the building several times. We watched them while they were there.
Does anyone
Never
know
saw anything
what that is there
appeared
off
to
the
be
end of the trailer? Please comment if you do.
Placed inside that
what it's used
sphere
for?
you see, which is where they would detonate a device if they needed to. From what we could tell,
that
did not happen. Although we didn't see it at all times. Again, that's a remote-controlled vehicle they use many times if they have to go into a building, near a building, to detonate something. And we did get reports, and the governor did also say this when he addressed the public about 2 o'clock, that there were some improvised explosive devices found at the scene, which is why the FBI has been called in on this one, which is normal protocol when any type of explosive devices are found or used in a situation like what we saw here today. And that's what I was describing earlier. And again, this is shot earlier. As Paul points out, that scene has been the clinic scene has been evacuated. No one in that building at this hour, as far as we know. And the focus of this investigation now moves to other parts of the city of Buffalo. We do know that the Best Western was looked at, and a perimeter was set up there, as we pointed out earlier. And the most recent area that is coming under scrutiny in the city of Buffalo is a neighborhood not far from the Buffalo Hospital, where another perimeter has been set up, presumably.
Honestly,
some connection to
no
the
one
suspect.
has said this yet.
And,
I strongly believe
those are essentially the latest details,
can allegedly
the concrete
be
details
a crime
that we
of passion.
have. Again, the next phase of this investigation, the next phase really of details being released should happen at 3 o'clock.
Well, this was a busy place at 11 o'clock this morning. It's a small clinic, but a busy place where people were in exam rooms at the time when they heard gunfire and then also those explosions. So you think about just the panic that probably set in as people were trying to figure out what was happening and where it was coming from, how could they get to safety, call 911. We had Jim Rich interviewing a witness who had pulled up in the parking lot, and she was taking her mom there, and some nurses ran outside and said, just go, just drive, and tried to explain what was going on. They had left their cell phones behind, so this woman let them borrow her cell phone so that they could call loved ones to let them know that they were okay. But just
delete that comment,
just pure panic at 11 o'clock this morning here at the Alina Crossroads Clinic as people heard gunfire and those explosions going off. We have Rob Olson, who's at the Wright County Government Center, setting up for this news conference that will take place in about 13 minutes. And so, Rob, I know you don't have any additional details, but we know the ATF and the FBI are there, Minneapolis bomb squad. There are a lot of agencies that are coming in to help out with this.
Hypothetically, because it'll kill the street.
Well, yeah, certainly this is an all-hands-on-deck scenario for law enforcement locally and across the state, and of course the federal authorities. I know that even the Minneapolis police spokesperson, John Elder, is here, was dispatched to just help with communications coordination, not in any really official capacity there. The Minneapolis bomb squad, though, is also assisting, but he was sent out to do whatever help that he can from a communication standpoint. I know that I've seen the spokesperson for the FBI is here, and for the Department of Public Safety, the BCA certainly playing a role here with agents here, and the State Crime Lab. We've got, again, FBI agents, a handful of them, don't have an exact number, that are here assisting in the investigation and assisting, obviously, with investigating the explosive devices here. They have a knowledge of those, and then determining if there's a role going forward for the FBI, depending on motive here, plays a big role in whether they will continue to do that. Scheduled to speak here, though, at this news conference, for sure, is the police chief of Buffalo, the sheriff of Wright County, and the president of the Buffalo Hospital. Those are the three that are scheduled to address the media. But again, many of these other agencies on hand as well to listen in, to assist, to inform as best they can. Certainly, again, so many different elements here that have shown up to take part in this, because it's a pretty wide-ranging investigation here into what occurred. Again, now just more than 10, 12 minutes away from this news conference, so getting very soon, hopefully, to shed a little bit more light on all of this. Back to you.
Yeah, the folks at Buffalo hope that the president of the hospital will certainly update. As Jim Rich pointed out, everybody knows each other for the most part in Buffalo, and certainly the connection between the Alina Clinic and that hospital, that folks there presumably would have known the people that were injured or otherwise in this active shooter situation that occurred there. So I think if some information can be given about what the condition of those victims are, what the real number of those victims are, that's really valuable. We know that an investigation like this will take quite some time, so the details of that may not come. But if we can get some information on where we are with those victims, I think the folks at Buffalo would really appreciate that.
Number one, I think we're just all incredibly worried about how those victims are doing.
Yeah, so many people are. So many people have health on their minds right now with the pandemic and everything. It's just such a shame that something like this can occur anywhere, let alone a health clinic like this in
Janice,
what by
exactly,
most standards
Tom, like the
would still be
Laura
considered a
Black
small
shooting,
town
a
in
crime
Minnesota.
of
Right,
passion.
and where
I
employees
don't
have
know
been
that
working
case. I'm
nonstop for the
sorry.
last 10 months amid this pandemic and this crisis with COVID to help people. That's what they do every day when they go to work. They go to work to help people.
We are getting responses from people all over Minnesota, elected officials,
And it honestly
as well
can be
as
as
others.
simple as
But
someone
I
who
know
got
that Congresswoman Ilhan Omar
irritated
did
because they didn't get a
tweet
script.
out a short time ago, "I'm devastated by the news of this mass shooting and bombing in Wright County, Minnesota. My thoughts are with all the victims and their families right now." And attached to that, a picture of the scene, a similar picture to what we've shown you as law enforcement and medical crews amassed there. You can see the clinic in the background of that picture that Congresswoman Ilhan Omar had tweeted out just a short time ago.
Yeah, all hands on deck situation with law enforcement. Law enforcement have gathered from across the state. The State Patrol flew in boxes of blood for victims who were taken to Buffalo Hospital as well today. And so everybody is doing what they can to try to help this situation. And again, the bigger picture we may not know yet because there were explosive devices involved in this. And we know the ATF and the FBI are working to see if there are more potential threats out there, just what the scope of all of this is, because we don't really know a lot about the suspect. A single individual who was taken into custody who may have also called 911 after this shooting. We know that at 11 o'clock today, that clinic that you see right there, the Alina Crossroads Clinic, gunfire was heard, and then explosions as well. And you can see the windows are broken. Two of those windows are broken at that clinic. And then at 2 o'clock, the governor updated us and could not confirm the number of people hurt in all of this, but we know there are multiple people who were taken to hospitals, including Buffalo Hospital, the closest, and North Memorial. And one person, again, taken into custody, but we don't know yet if more people could potentially be involved or if this was just the act of one person, and we don't know why.
We also know that Buffalo is considered one of those bedroom communities, so a lot of folks who live there work in the Twin Cities. The district, the Buffalo, Hanover, Montrose, out there, the school district, it includes those areas, sent out a note to parents, families, and staff about an hour ago, and it reads in part today, there was an emergency situation at the Alina Crossroads that prompted schools in the Buffalo area there to be in lockdown. And at the direction of the Buffalo Police Department, we evacuated students from the two closest schools, which happen to be Tatanka Elementary STEM School and Pride Transitions. Those kids went to Buffalo High School, by the way, and that's probably where they are now, unless parents have responded to pick them up, although I don't know that that clearance has been given yet. All other schools will remain today at their regularly scheduled time. All kid care sites will be open until 6:30. Tatanka Kid Care students will remain at Buffalo High School until picked up by parents. The district, this is the district's words, acted quickly with the help of the Buffalo Police Department and Wright County Sheriff's Department to make sure that our students and staff are safe and secure. Our thoughts go out to those who are directly involved or indirectly involved with this situation. And they're going to give out more information as it becomes necessary. That, for our purpose, is to give anybody who might just be picking this up or whose parents, those parents that work in the Twin Cities wondering where their kids are. That's where they are. Buffalo High School is where any of those kids at those two schools close to this area were taken when this occurred.
Right. And after-school activities, any programs for the evening, they have been canceled for the entire district in light of what happened here today at this Alina Health Clinic. Again, we're about 5 minutes away from the start of this news conference where we may learn some more information, but we have Rob Olson, who's at the Wright County Government Center. We have Paul Bloom, who's at the scene at the Alina Crossroads Clinic. We have Karen Scullin, who has been at the Super 8, which was the crime scene where they were checking for the potential of explosive devices today. And then she has moved to a residential area where the ATF and other law enforcement investigators have surrounded an area, created a perimeter, and they're not letting people in. Again, we don't know what they're potentially investigating there, but we know if the ATF is involved, it has something to do with the suspect or the potential for more explosive devices.
The suspect, by the way, has been taken into custody, so at least that part of this story is being verified, that the individual who entered the Alina Clinic was taken into custody. In fact, one of the witnesses there described it as an older gentleman with gray hair. Also said that they were close enough to hear the suspect dial 911 saying send ambulances to that scene.
That's the first detail I heard of it, description.
Which is also an interesting fact. Not verified yet, by the way, by law enforcement, but that is what's coming from eyewitnesses on the scene who were inside the clinic when this occurred.
You know, and Buffalo is such a tight-knit community that anybody who lives in Buffalo is likely sending out a message, and I've seen these today, just letting everybody know that they're okay, because everybody sort of knows everybody there. And this is very personal. We have employees like Jim, Rich, and photojournalist John Catu who live in this community, and it's very personal for them. And I know they're worried right now that they know somebody who was inside that clinic earlier today.
Again, the next thing that we will see here on Fox 9 will be that 3 p.m. Press conference at the Wright County Government Center. At the time, we will hear from two different law enforcement agencies, Wright County Sheriff's Department, Buffalo City Police Department. We also expect to hear from the president of the Buffalo Hospital, presumably to update us on victims that were taken there. We do know that that's where the shooting victims did go. We also know that the American Red Cross, with the help of the Minnesota State Patrol, sent several boxes of blood to that hospital to aid in the trauma care of those victims. We know that at least, but we do know that they will be releasing more information in terms of what occurred. Hopefully we'll get more detailed information about the suspect, and then certainly more information about the victims and where their conditions stand at 3 o'clock this afternoon.
Just trying to wrap your head around this.
Chris.
It's very difficult.
Still working.
You know, we've been living in a state of uncertainty for the last 10 months, and it's been a very difficult year.
Press conference
and
where they
to have something like this happen at 11 o'clock in the morning at a healthcare clinic, it's just very difficult to understand why anything like this would happen. And I know in Buffalo, they're having a very difficult time understanding how this could especially happen there.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. And without, assuming too much, I do know that the folks that live out there often, because I know several people who live out there, often say, we're glad we live in Buffalo for various reasons. So you just hate to see this happen anywhere. But the profound effects it can have on a smaller community, it's just heartrending when this happens. You're seeing images here that were taken throughout the morning as this investigation unfolded. This is near the Super 8, which we talked about.
He told them to send the ambulances.
Had been positioned earlier this morning. This is the scene outside the healthcare clinic, the Albany Clinic, when the canine units were brought in, and they were going through several vehicles looking for any types of evidence, presumably also looking for any additional explosive devices that may still be present. There were two different dogs doing this. You can see in the left-hand side of your screen there, the one doing their job there. This went on for about 45 minutes, and then this concluded as part of the investigation right on site there at the Albany Clinic.
Yeah, and that's a big concern. Is there another shoe that's going to drop with this potential suspect? Was this premeditated? Was there a plan to do even more harm? And so getting around this suspect's residence or any other place that he may have had an issue with, they have to be very careful. And that's why you see all of this equipment coming in, and why things may tend to look like they're moving a little bit slow, because checking a site out like the clinic for more potential explosives, it takes a long time. It is a careful, it's a tedious process. So you think about that happening at multiple scenes right now. This is going to take days to put together.
Yeah, it really will. We want to make sure that we get you to the Wright County Government Center right up at 3 o'clock, which is about 4 seconds from now. We want to make sure that our viewers can get every bit of information that's going to occur here as the Wright County Sheriff's Department, the Buffalo City Police, and the president of the hospital speak and address those in attendance. Let's listen in.
My name is Pat Budke, B-U-D-K-E, and I am the police chief for the city of Buffalo. Police Department. Our hearts break today as a community at 10:54 a.m. We received a 911 call from a clinic in the in the 700 block of Crossroads Campus Drive. The report was that shots had been fired. Officers responded. Those officers immediately were given information that the shooter that there were several people injured within the clinic. Officers responding located multiple victims, and also the shooter, a 67-year-old male who was taken into custody. And those officers then immediately began to render aid to the injured. There is no information at this point that leads us to believe that there is any nexus with any type of domestic terrorism. We are very familiar with the suspect, and I would just like to say I'm very proud of the men and women of law enforcement that responded to assist with this incident, who put themselves in harm's way. I want to thank the multiple agencies. Representatives are here with us. Everyone came together, and I just want to say thank you. And again,
Miss
our heart breaks as a
small
community.
town, he's heartbroken. Yes, Miss.
This is a day that no community would want to go through. We would not, especially those staff that were there. Of course, those that were injured, the families of those that were injured. Our thoughts and prayers are with them. And
P in the chats.
Again, I just want to thank everyone that has responded to assist us. And at this point, I'm going to
for the officers
ask that Wright County Sheriff Sean Derringer talk about his agency's part in this investigation. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. And I would like to echo Chief Budke's words. It's heartbreaking dealing with, we're 3 or 4 hours after the initial call for this incident, and I think we're still a little bit surprised. We never hoped for something like this to happen in our backyard, and our hearts and sympathies and certainly our prayers go out to the entire city of Buffalo and the entire Wright County area. As
Amen, Jenna.
Mayor Lockemeyer alluded to, we're family here, and we don't want this to happen to our neighbors and our friends. So I will identify the suspect as Gregory Paul Ulrich, L-U-R-I-C-H. He's 67 years old. He is from Buffalo. We have had several calls for service regarding Mr. Ulrich dating back to 2003, both the Buffalo Police Department and the Wright County Sheriff's Office. So he's no stranger to law enforcement. Certainly, I would go back to Chief Budke, as we all respond to a call like this, right? Buffalo Police Department doesn't have to put an all call out for assistance. We self-dispatch to that. And upon our arrival, we also located several victims in this. It's a horrible looking scene. And our staff immediately began rendering aid to those victims. Once all the victims were removed from the premises, my team did a cursory secondary search of the building, made sure that no one else was in it.
3 people went in, I saw that.
During the secondary search, we also found a suspicious package in the corner of the lobby. So we have contacted the Minneapolis bomb squad, and they are on scene right now helping us with that. Once that was taken care of, or once that was found, we evacuated our team members out of there in coordination with the Buffalo Police Department, my office, quickly became apparent that we could probably use some help. We had several witnesses, obviously several victims. They're taken to several different locations. And so we've called in some detectives. Thank you, Sheriff Dave Hutchinson from the Hennepin County Sheriff's Office. He sent a team of detectives to my office north of Buffalo to help with those victim statements and the witness statements. So appreciate that. Also, out of an abundance of caution early on in this investigation, we did receive information that Mr. Ulrich was staying most recently at the Super 8 Motel here in Buffalo. We did send a team from my office over there to evacuate the Super 8 Motel. We did find additional suspicious devices at the Super 8 Motel. It's been evacuated. We've cleared the area. Just minutes before coming back here, I got a call update. We have search warrants are in hand. We are going to continue to work with the Buffalo Police Department, certainly our state and local partners, along with our federal partners, depending on where this investigation, we are certainly in the infancy of this investigation, but we certainly don't want to leave any stone unturned, and we want to make sure that we're being prudent throughout this entire investigation. We do believe that Mr.
Greta
Ulrich
says hello,
did,
Tom and friends. She misses
act
everyone.
alone. So a
We
sigh
hope
of
to see her
relief
soon.
maybe for us in the law enforcement community
Hope that man's almost over.
and our community as a whole. We're not looking for any additional suspects. We believe that he acted alone, and so we've got time on our side. We can all gather the information. Once these scenes are secured, and we'll rely on the ATF and the Minneapolis Bomb Squad to tell us when those scenes are secure, we can start the tedious process of making sure that we document to the best and fullest of our ability. So again, I would echo the comments from Chief Budke that our heart goes out to this entire community. It's we in the law enforcement community don't wish this upon anyone, and it's with a heartfelt, prayerful message to the community that we will do everything that we can to bring this to a closure. I'd also like to thank our other local, state, and federal partners that have showed up. I've had many conversations with several of our surrounding police chiefs and sheriffs, and the help that's being offered is exponential, and certainly it means a lot to have those relationships developed at a time like this when we need it the most. So we will continue to update to the best of our ability as this investigation is certainly in its infancy, and we'll continue to gather information certainly as the days and weeks progress. So we'll continue to update to the best of our ability. So thank you all for being here and taking part of this. I would like to turn it over actually to the Buffalo Hospital President, Kelly Spratt.
Thank you, Sheriff. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kelly Spratt, S-P-R-A-T-T. And I am the president of for Allina Health Buffalo Hospital. Let me just start by saying our prayers and our thoughts are with our staff and with the patients that we serve out here in this greater community and for the greater community as a whole. This obviously is a very challenging day for us out here and across the Allina Health family. And I want to emphasize family, and the sheriff and the police chief just mentioned that is the way we look at this overarching community. So our hearts break, again, for the family, the patients that trust us with their care, and for the greater community. We had a total of 5 patients that were transported from the clinic, 4 of which went to North Memorial. It was the ultimate destination, 1 to Hennepin County Medical Center. 2 of them were initially transported to Buffalo Hospital. The other 3 left directly from the scene to those metro hospitals, being their level 1 trauma center. At this point, I do not have the most up-to-date information on the patient's conditions. And again, our thoughts and our prayers go out to them and their families and to our staff across the Allina Health system. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mayor Terry. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. My name's Terry Lockemeyer. Last name spelled L-A-C-H-E-R-M-E-I-E-R. And I'm the mayor of the city of Buffalo. And this is our family. These people were working together to make sure our community feels safe right now, that our community in Allina feels safe. Our hearts and prayers go out to the staff and the victims. And I just want to say, you guys, we're going to make it through this. It's going to be difficult. This doesn't happen in Buffalo, Minnesota, right? But we got to be there for these people that are needing us. We got to reach out and, in this time of COVID where you can't physically hug someone, we need to reach out by phone and make sure everybody's okay because it's a stressful time. So reach out, check on people, make sure they're okay because in the bottom line, it's mental health that we're suffering from, and we have to make sure we're taking care of those people who are in need of our help. I want to thank everyone for being here. Again, my hearts and prayers go out to our community as well as the victims and the staff at Alina. I thank you all for coming, and I'm going to open it up to questions at this time.
When you said the 5 patients that were taken to the hospital, Kelly, you addressed that. Yeah. 5 patients that were taken to the hospital, were they patients at the clinic or were they nurses as staff at Alina?
Yeah, at this point, because this is an active investigation, we're just not prepared to clarify that at this point in time. So there was 5 patients. 5 were transported ultimately to 4 to North Memorial and 1 to Hennepin County Medical Center.
But at this time, no one has passed away.
Again, at this point in time, I'm not prepared and don't have the latest conditions on their report.
Did the shooter say anything before shooting his weapon?
I'm going to turn that over to law enforcement here.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Did the shooter say anything, speak anything to people in the clinic before opening fire?
Again, it's very early in the investigation. There's a lot of information to be sifted through. I don't know at this point of any comments directly made by the shooter to anyone in the clinic.
Could you say what his motive is? Could you speak to that at all? It's not a nexus of domestic terrorism. What is it?
The history that we have as a department with this individual makes it most likely that this incident was targeted at that facility or at someone within that facility. We're working now, as has been said, to make sure that we throw a net over anything remaining. We want to retrace his last hours and determine where he was. But at this point, because of the contact that we have had with him and his familiarity and a history of conflict, that's where we base the belief that this wasn't isolated and only directed at that facility or people within that facility.
Can you talk a little bit more about that, Chief? Jessica Miles of Channel 5. Because it sounds like the other clinic in town, too, was familiar with this guy, and they had a mug of him, and they knew who he was.
Correct. He has lived in this community for quite a long time and has had contact with healthcare within the community during that time. None of the information that we have, again, it's early on in the investigation, but none of the information that we have from our past contact with him would indicate that he was unhappy with or would direct his anger at anyone other than people within the facilities where he had been treated or where they had attempted to give treatment.
Put on a 72-hour hold by someone, possibly. I don't know. But
again, at this point, it's early on in the investigation, and so that's not something we're going to talk about.
Are there any bombs or explosive devices detonated? Because the way those windows went out, it doesn't necessarily look like gunshots.
Again, one of the things that we want to do is make sure that when we give you information, it's accurate. In a scene like that, as soon as we rendered aid and were able to make sure that there was no one else in that scene that needed our help, we backed out, evacuated the area as best we could. So again, that answer is one that we would hope to answer. That question is one that we would hope to answer in the coming days, but it's too early to tell.
How many shots were fired?
If he was,
I have no idea.
Can you just address the explosion or whatever you're looking into? Because throughout the day, we've talked about a shooting and then a half an hour later, an explosion. So if it's wrong, can you say that that's wrong?
I can say that that's wrong. I know that the call came out at 11:54.
10:54.
I'm sorry, 10:54. Sorry. And when I talk about an evacuation where law enforcement had at that point backed out, I don't have a specific time, but I know that no more than an hour had passed.
And there was no explosion inside that building?
There may have been prior to our being able to go inside and evacuate the building.
But you can't confirm it right now until
Correct.
they're done looking through
Correct.
it.
Can you talk a little bit about the people in the facility, in the clinic? Were they running out when this was happening? Were they sheltering in place? Were they hiding? What was staff and patients doing inside there? Do you know?
Yeah, so there is a lot that's unknown. All of the people within the building that we were able to speak with, we have spoken with, but that information again has to be part of the total investigation. In terms of people running out or what the reaction was, I know that Alina has a
good point
very
about mental
comprehensive training response plan for things like this as a facility, and so I would guess, it would be a guess, that there was a combination of responses by people, whether they were sheltering in place or trying to exit the building. I'm sorry.
Can you talk a little bit about those other explosives that were found or those suspicious devices that were found at the motel? Were those, do you know what the intended target of those were? Do you know?
Yeah, and we don't know or can't confirm what those devices were, or really anything about what the intention behind those devices might have been until we're able to complete the investigation.
Billy Monitor, are there fatalities? 5 patients,
I'm sorry?
3 level 1 trauma, which is critical.
I'm sorry, I don't know that.
Are you able to say more about the previous encounters with him and this kind of tie-in with healthcare workers going back to 2003? How many times? What were the kind of demeanor, I guess?
Yeah,
the mayor on the left, you can see the look.
I don't have specifics as far as the number of contacts negative contacts or positive contacts that he would have had with healthcare workers.
That was quick.
All right. Well, we've clearly lost a shot there.
I was going to say, I know what
with the
I mean.
health care that he received.
There it is.
Thank you.
There's also, within that history, nothing to indicate that that we would have been in the situation that we are at today.
2 questions left.
John, hold on here. Chief, does he have a criminal record, number one? And then can you tell us a little bit more about him? Does he have a job in town?
Someone asked how someone could get a gun.
Again, we're early on in the investigation, and I don't want to speak about where he might have. Yeah.
Stay strong. We're still alive. We're still up. Stay through it.
Personal. We have employees like Ulrich and photojournalist John Coutu who live in this community, and it's very personal for them.
Gotcha,
and
guys.
I know they're worried right now that they know somebody who was inside that clinic.
If you deem my efforts worthy of a donation,
again, the next thing that we will see here on Fox 9 will be that 3 p.m. Press conference at the Wright County Government Center. At the time, we will hear from 2 different law enforcement agencies, Wright County Sheriff's Department, Buffalo City Police Department. We also expect to hear from the president of the Buffalo Hospital, presumably to update us on victims that were taken there. We do know that that's where the shooting victims did go.
Sorry to bring you the unfortunate
We also know that the American Red Cross, with the help of the Minnesota State Patrol, sent several boxes of blood to that hospital to aid in the trauma care of those victims. We know that at least, but we do know that they will be releasing more information in terms of what occurred. Hopefully we'll get more detailed information about the suspect, and then certainly more information about the victims and where their conditions stand at 3 o'clock this afternoon.
Just trying to wrap your head around this, it's very difficult. We've been living in a state of uncertainty for the last 10 months, and it's been a very difficult year.
Page,
and then
the number
to have
would
something
be
like
3,
this happen at 11 o'clock in the
equal
morning
to
at a
or
healthcare
less than
clinic.
3.
It's just very difficult to understand why anything like this would happen.
With 2 other
and
additional
I know in Buffalo,
injuries, but
they're having a very difficult time understanding how this could especially happen there.
Well, I think you're absolutely
Quote,
right. And
three
without
level one
assuming too
trauma.
much, I do know that the folks that live out there often, because I know several people who live out there, often say, we're glad we live in Buffalo for various reasons.
Oh,
so
that
you
other
just
stream
want to
came
speak
back.
about where he might. Yeah.
I'm sorry, those three people, I mean, his criminal record.
Oh, hang on. We go from Alpha. Come on, Facebook. Let's go.
Does he have a job in town? Does he have...
Again, we're early on in the investigation, and I don't want to speak about where he might. Yeah.
I'm sorry, those three people, I mean, his criminal record.
What was the suspect's name again? That looks like where the feed terminates for everybody. Let's stay like this.
Can you tell us a little bit more about him? Does he have a job in town? Does he have...
Again, we're early on in the investigation,
Number of
and
victims
I don't want to speak
who
about
were
where
injured
he
in
might.
this today. 5 patients, again, as you said, Randy, there were taken to North Memorial, 1 Hennepin County Medical, because those are level 5 patients, again, as you said, Randy, taken immediately, and we do not know their conditions at this time. But given the fact that this was a shooting, we know that, and they were taken to level 1 trauma centers, these are serious injuries.
And we're going to leave you with a bit of information. Again, the suspect, 67-year-old Gregory Ulrich, he is due in court already on Thursday. And as we leave you the shot there of the Albany Clinic in Buffalo, it's called the Crossroads area. County Road 35 and Highway 55 is where this occurred at 10:54 this morning. We will certainly have many more details as we can gather them and as we know them coming up in our early
He'll
newscast
lose his
at 5
right
o'clock.
to make his own decisions.
And they commented that this has been a horrible-looking scene, and there are dozens upon dozens of law enforcement officials that have gathered from across the state. ATF involved as well as they investigate the potential for explosive devices. That is still very unclear whether those exist, but they have found suspicious packages. Do we have Rob Olson? Okay.
A little bit of kindness goes a very long way.
We're going to go ahead and wrap this coverage up. We'll be back at 5 o'clock today, though, with the very latest, and still a lot of unknowns, including just how seriously injured these victims are. Thank you for joining us, and we'll be back soon.
Same here. Just want to thank everybody who was kind enough to join for the stream. Let's see if we got anything else. There should be still some streams, if so. Aside that, let's see if he's got any.
He was doing this for some political cause, or some religion or something.
You guys want to break down on
they
him?
could not confirm whether there had been any explosions at the health clinic. There are reports there were. Fox 9 says a law enforcement source told them there were 3 bombs at the health clinic and 2 of them exploded. But they would not confirm any explosions at the health clinic, and they said there were suspicious devices at the Super 8 where he was staying, but they didn't confirm the nature of these devices. So we're bringing you the latest updates here, and but again, they say they don't believe it's terrorism. They're familiar with the person. I believe they said they had gotten calls about him in the past. So somebody they had dealt with before the police, and they say they believe it was just him who did this. And at this point, we don't, I certainly thoughts with all the people who were injured, and we hopefully none of them, they all survive. But we'll see if we get any more details coming out about the condition of them. They didn't even release conditions of the people who had been injured. Okay, I want to take some comments from you guys. Give me a shout. Let me know your thoughts on this. We'll take some questions from you guys. Again, here's a little summary. 5 people injured in shooting at Allina Health Clinic in Buffalo, Minnesota. Shooter in custody. This happened this morning there in Buffalo, Minnesota. Let's see here. 5 victims were taken to area hospitals. There is no update on their conditions. I don't know if there are other people injured besides the people who were transported.
That members in both parties have an obligation to vote.
And video from the scene shows several windows at the clinics have been shattered.
What I'll do here is I'll start a different stream.
All right. By the way, hey, thanks to Tony Del Monte. Tony says, Tony wrote to me about this earlier
After a
this morning.
brief
Tony
break,
said, been to Buffalo
if
a
that
lot.
Senate
Nice
hearing
and
is still
friendly
going
town. I
on,
always go there during
that's going to
spring
go into the night, I'm sure.
Crow River. Thank you, Tony, for your
Theatrics on
support.
both
Thank
sides.
you also to Sonic
Let me say
and
that,
Vanessa
on both.
Vanessa Wilcoxon and Straybull for your support as well. All right, I want to take some comments and questions from you guys. At Lookner on Twitter is where you can reach me, at Lookner on Twitter.
And that's going to do it. Everyone be well.
Somebody else sent me another photo of the shooter, but I don't know where you got it. If you send me something like that, please let me know where you're finding it. Let's see here.
Sam, man, I didn't know you were creeping around. How you doing? Don't creep up on people like that. How you been, brother? Good?
Where is this?
Janice, thank you. You're welcome.
Our viewer Uffy sent me this, which says Zion Lutheran Church Council Update 2019. I think he said he saw.
Don't look like him.
Oh yeah. So this is from a local church in Buffalo, Minnesota. This is a church in Buffalo, Minnesota. Uffy found this, and it says Zion Lutheran Church Council Update. Pastor Ted informed the council of a disturbing letter from Greg Ulrich. The Buffalo Police Department was called and informed Pastor Ted that Mr. Ulrich is well known to them and recommended a no trespassing order be issued, so if he ever did appear at Zion, the police could take action. The order was issued the following day, and the staff have been given a picture of Mr. Ulrich and informed to call 911 if he does appear on any of Zion's properties. That's interesting. So that's from a church in Buffalo, Minnesota in 2009 about a disturbing letter received from Greg Ulrich.
So that was 11 years ago. That very well could be him.
And it says that a no trespassing order.
Look at the eyes and the nose. Those don't change after you get out of puberty in your adult life ever.
Oh, Mira says Intel Doge tweeted about that. I didn't see that. I'm sorry. Let's see here. Oh, yeah. So Intel Doge posted this. Ulrich, a suspect in the Buffalo, Minnesota Health Clinic shooting, is noted as sending a distirbing letter to Zion Lutheran Church.
Note the big bridge in between his eyes there, how it's kind of unique compared to the rest of his face. That's something that would dissipate and would be pronounced on the other as well.
WCCO has his photo. I think, isn't that the one we already showed you?
Or should we go back to the other one?
Yeah, this is the photo from KSTP.
We've seen it.
Which looks like the same photo we saw before.
Let's see the other one. Let's go.
Yeah, Buffalo, Minnesota. Buffalo, Minnesota.
Well, that's it.